Hello, my name is Lynn Mead and I teach public speaking. I'd like to talk about an activity I do with my students that qualifies as a high impact practice. I noticed that there was a problem. The first thing is that students are locked in context. They tend to think that public speaking is something that you do while standing behind a podium in a college classroom. They also tend to think that the history lessons attached to public speaking and rhetoric are boring, and it can feel irrelevant when really the assignments are just how do I give a speech in a college class. Students tend to be scared of speaking, and in part that fear comes because they don't really understand what it is. They think it's a specific activity in a college class as opposed to the thing that professionals do in lots of different applications. Another problem is that students think that this class does not apply to me. I'll never give a speech. I don't care about speaking because I don't like it. I'll probably never do it. Another problem I see is students are not engaged in the community. Oftentimes, students will not venture out beyond campus, and what we know is when they get into the community, they feel more engaged to the community, more connected to the university that way. I created this assignment I call Civic Engagement at Fayetteville Farmers Market. Students meet with me at the farmers market on a Saturday. We spend 2 hours at the market to achieve these objectives: to observe public speaking in a community context, to engage speakers in dialogue about topics of interest, and to compare the Fayetteville Square Farmers Market with the history lessons we're having rhetoric and the Roman agora. So what we do once we get there is we go to the farmers market, and I have planned several adventures for them. The first one being Artventures. And the director comes and speaks with them about their mission, about what they do, about how they fit into the larger picture of the community. The other thing that they do is we go over to the Experience Fayetteville office. That's the office that does the PR for the city of Fayetteville, and the director there will talk about what Fayetteville's doing, how things from the hotel tax plays into the larger picture of how they do advertising and promotions and special programs in Fayetteville. And then of course the students always like the part where they get to learn about cool things that college students can do in and around town. The other thing that they do is they have to talk to 3 market folks. And what that looks like can be different, because if you've been to the Fayetteville Farmers Market, you know, of course, there's produce, but there's also a lot of arts, there's a lot of crafts, oftentimes politicians, there'll be nonprofit groups, there'll be advocacy groups. So they have to talk to 3 different types of people there. And the benefits have been amazing. The biggest thing that I see is my students are engaged in the community. They'll tell me that they take their friends, they tell me that they take their family when they're in town, that they feel part of something and they didn't know this was happening, and that really excites them. And then for the application of the class, students are learning about public speaking. They're learning that it's not just something that takes place in a college class. It's something that can happen in dynamic environments. What I find is some of the outcomes of this is that students are engaged. They also get educated about business. This is also at Artventures, and this is the director telling them about the mission. When they write their reflection papers, often I get things like, well, I never really thought of that as public speaking. They also get just a variety. Every time I go, it's different, and I make sure there's lots of different speakers. One day we were there, one of the artists was actually there, so she was talking about the process of how she made her art, what it meant, what it symbolized, where else it was listed in the state. So then they could see how people market things. So it was relating to the things that they were doing in their business classes. It was relating to public speaking and the fact that it was basically a demonstration speech, like I'm demonstrating how the slide works, I'm talking about the process of how it was made. So they're thinking of creative ways that people use the types of speeches we're doing in class. They're learning about the community. Not only are they learning about speech, but they're learning about Fayetteville. They're learning about possibilities, things they can do. They're learning about the interconnectivity of different activities, and they're helping to make those dynamic connections. They're also learning about social issues. Also, because there's politicians there, they're learning about how speech is used in politics, and sometimes just like learning about candidates. Also, as they're talking about artisans, and the artisans may be saying, this is where we, in this case, the jeweler saying, this is where we mine the rocks for the jewelry that we have. So they're learning about processes and they're learning about connectivity, but they're walking away and they're writing papers going, I never thought of that as public speaking. But at the end of the day in the market, we meet somewhere, we sit around in a circle and we talk. And I asked them questions like, what did you learn? What do you think about public speaking now having done this? How is this different than your assumptions before? What did you learn? What was an informative thing that you took away? How were you persuaded? How does this make you think about the power of public speaking? After we do the collective reflection, then later they have a paper that's due within that next week where they do some private reflections. And then throughout the class, we make applications to the thing that we've learned.